Do you think the fort is safe? Why or why not?
I think if you consider my house the fort, that I feel safe there, but other parts of the fort, not so much. It's kind of scary to walk home at night by yourself.
Have you done it before and felt really scared? And
Yes, many times I have, but usually I have my mace with me.
would you suggest other girls, walking around that are UT students would have stuff like that?
I mean,
it's that dangerous?
I think it's just a good idea, just because you don't know what other people think in their crazy minds.
Okay.
The Fort Sanders area as well as the UT area, we're not immune to crime. We're a small city on campus ourselves. Fort Sanders area, just like the UT campus area, crime has been occurring for years. And so I will say that we as a university have gotten better about notifying students about crime that occurred in the area. I'm not saying that crime has not increased in the area. I know crime on our campus overall, thefts have decreased slightly. Campus crime overall is up slightly on UT property. I know we've had the homicide that was reported in the fall of 2011, and there have been other incidents that have been reported robberies. I don't know if that's increasing or decreasing from the statistics, but I do know that we have had those incidents reported to KPD, and of course those have impacted our campus community. Some of those, I can say, have been drug related. I don't want to say that's been the majority or that's all of them, so I cannot say that that's where everything is coming from. However, I do know that some of the robberies that have occurred have been deemed drug related. I will say the Fort Sanders is an active place. It's rare that something isn't going on in the Fort Sanders area. Most people will find that if they live on campus, there are a lot of restrictions and rules about who can be in your residence hall, who can maybe some restrictions on the hours that they can be in there, male versus female, what have you. People who want to live close to campus with a lot of freedom tend to move either to the Fort Sanders area or perhaps one of the South Knoxville properties that aren't owned by the university. So we realize that even though the majority of property that's in the Fort Sanders is not owned or controlled by the university, we have a vested interest. I mean, the UT campus as well as the police department has a vested interest in that property because regardless of whether it's our property or not, people think it's our property. When they say something happened at the Fort Sanders, people automatically assume, oh, that's UT. And most of the time it's not. But a lot of our students live there, a lot of our faculty or staff live there, and so you have statistics vary, but anywhere between I've heard 60 to 80% of the people who live in the fort are affiliated with the university. So the equivalent of a See Something Type Say Something program. So we're really encouraging people in the fort and anywhere on campus, but especially in the fort, if they see any sort of criminal activity, to contact somebody, no matter how slight. And the reason I say no matter how slight is because something may start with something as simple as a couch being on somebody's lawn, and that may not seem like a large deal, but if a couch lays there and it goes unanswered, then trash starts to build up, and then homeless people may start to build. And again, it's not illegal to be homeless, certainly, but it is illegal to loiter, and it's illegal to panhandle, and so those things lead to larger crimes, and then you may have alcohol-related incidents, or you may have drug-related incidents, and then and I don't want to say one couch in a yard is going to lead to a robbery. However, if left unchecked and people don't call in on suspicious people when they see things, suspicious activities when they see them, or even just something as simple as people throwing garbage out and leaving that unchecked, then it does lead to more serious incidents because again, people feel like, well, nobody cares about this area, so obviously I can get away with this. And from that, we've developed monthly campaigns, and so. Usually KPD, definitely always UT Police and always a colleague of the university, and KPD is always invited as well. Go pick an area month to month throughout the campus, throughout the semester, throughout the year, actually, the academic year, and target that area and just do knock and talks and talk to people. Do you have any questions? Do you have any concerns? We've gone to the Commons, we've gone to Grand Forest, we've gone to UT properties, and so asking people if they have any questions or concerns and really talking about safety, it's opened some doors. I mean, obviously there's still some incidents to occur because we're not immune to crime. I can tell you that a non-commissioned officer is assigned every evening to the 16th Street area, and so that really is to target women who are leaving the Panhellenic area and going into Laurel Avenue. And so those are the light blue shirts, non-commissioned officer. As far as a commissioned officer, that's a priority for assigning people. So every day when we assign staff, there's always at least one commissioned officer assigned to the Fort Sanders area. Now, could I say he's on 11th Street or he's on 22nd? That I don't know. But I can tell you that's a priority in assigning a person to that area. And that's 24/7, 7 days a week. So first of all, if they see any sort of suspicious activity, call the police then. Most people think that, they don't want to be perceived as a narc. They don't want to be perceived as somebody who's calling in on something that's insignificant. If they see somebody who's just seemingly acting suspicious, call then, not later. We would much rather go out to 5 different calls that didn't amount to anything than somebody be robbed and somebody says to us later, oh, I saw somebody in the parking lot looking around and acting suspicious. I should have called in on them, but I didn't. We would much rather try to prevent a crime than to work a crime after it happened. But not just that, if people are going to choose, I can't say, don't participate, don't drink if you're under 21 and those sorts of things. I can say that all day long, but realistically, people are going to do what they want to do within reason. But if people choose to participate in habits such as consuming alcohol in excess or consuming drugs, whether they're legal or illegal, if they choose to participate in those activities, make sure that they try to use a little good judgment, sound judgment. If they're going to participate in activities where they drink a lot of alcohol, stay in a residence. Stay in a house. Don't put yourself in a compromising situation where you're forced to be walking from Cumberland Avenue to a residence in Fort Sanders. You're intoxicated and you can't make as good of decisions as you could have if you were sober. So really trying to make better decisions about your own personal safety and realizing you're responsible for your personal safety. We could put 500 officers in the Fort Sanders area or on campus. That still isn't going to put an officer in every single corner. It's just not going to. So there comes a point when people have to be responsible for their own personal safety, to help try to prevent crimes. It's just and the same as Hodges Library. If you leave a laptop laying out and then you want to call and say, "Oh, this was stolen. I can't believe you all let this happen." I can't be on every floor of the Hodges Library at every desk waiting to see if somebody's going to leave a laptop. You have to take some accountability, for your actions. But at the same time, obviously the police are there to help. So, but it's very difficult if we don't know that there's a problem occurring. So it's really a joint effort between citizens and the police department trying to prevent crime. It can't just be all the citizens and it can't be all the police. It's got to be a joint effort between the two.
My name's Andrew Emmett. I'm a student at the University of Tennessee, and I've lived in the fort since December 2011. On my behalf, 2 weeks ago now, my car got broken into. I couldn't find a parking place in my apartment's lot, and so I took it down to a different lot. And then I came back in the morning, and my window had been busted in, and they had gotten in and tried to steal my car by sticking a screwdriver in the ignition, I guess, and just jamming it and really screwing that up. So I had to get that fixed, and it was $1,100. Yeah, we definitely. I didn't even realize, because I moved in December, and I didn't really realize that people had this perception of the fort as being a hotbed of criminal activity. But apparently they do, because this semester in class we talked a lot. We just had discussions about the fort and UT having these initiatives of don't walk alone, things you should do, things you shouldn't do to keep safe. And I thought it was kind of strange, because I would have never. I feel safe walking around at night, but apparently most people don't. I guess I should be worried about myself, because I've heard stories of there was a guy a few years ago who got killed. Somebody just threw a brick, smashed his head in with a brick. It was just a guy walking down the street. The fact that there's so many students and that they're often lugging around a backpack, and I think that people who are going to mug someone know that they can just take that backpack and there's a chance that there's going to be a laptop in there or an iPod or an iPhone.
Mayor O'Hara's office.
Both KPD and UT Police Department have both assigned officers to this area for 24 hours coverage, whereas other neighborhoods, you're part of a larger district and they're police, in and around if they're needed,
Yes.
But this is 24-hour coverage. They have educational safety programs for students that live in the area. They meet monthly with the Cumberland Avenue Merchants Association and with the Neighborhood Association, the historic Fort Sanders. Lieutenant Shauna Williams has been assigned to the mayor's working group that meets annually with students to discuss issues and concerns. Captain Don Jones and Deputy Chief Gary Price meet quarterly with a group at UT that consists of students, the administration, the police department, Fort Sanders residents, and council members. And he says that every Monday afternoon during his senior staff meeting, the third item on the agenda is a discussion about Fort Sanders and is there any incidents, what they need to follow up on. So there's a lot of attention given to UT. So talk to them about, your perception that it's a hotbed, because he says that it really is. When you look at the entire city and things that are going on, obviously there are things that happen. But there's actually, and one of the things they really care about is because there are so many students, and it is a very densely, it's a very dense area, densely populated area, that they want to protect students. They want to protect the image of the university. It's a big part of our, of our city, and so they really do have a heavy focus on that. So it's a topic of conversation, number one, because we're putting a significant investment in the Cumberland Avenue area to fix that up. Right now, Cumberland Avenue is basically a pass-through. People go through it in order to get somewhere else. When you've got something like that retail area right next to a university, you want it to be a destination. You want it safer for pedestrians, for the students and the faculty and the neighbors that live there. So we're investing big dollars in widening the sidewalks, making it more attractive, redefining the traffic movement there. And so we focus on that a lot. We also are concerned about the fort. I was community development director before I ran for mayor.
Okay.
And we've worked with some of the residents that live there that support, they're part of the neighborhood organization. And just a few weeks ago, we had a code sweep. I don't know if you're aware of that, where our public service department, the neighborhood codes enforcement office, they went in there. We brought in all of our codes enforcement people that are normally in different parts of the city, and we focused on the fort. And first, the week before that, put up signs, left informational stuff about, we're coming through, these are the regulations. And then we came through, and as we saw things, they gave them not a citation, but a notice. This is a violation. And there's a big article in the paper about it that day. And then they'll come back. I forget how many days they give them. So many days to clean it up. And then they'll come back and then they'll cite them.
Okay.
Because like I had said, what we saw a lot of just in the walk was just messiness, like people leaving, like maybe there'd been a party the night before, and they leave their beer bottles out, their pizza boxes and all. And I was quoted very eloquently, there's partying and there's messy partying, We know people are going to party in the fort, but you don't have to be slobs about it. And we want people to clean up after themselves, have pride in where they live, have pride in the neighborhood around their school. And so some of it is absentee landlords who don't take proper care of their property, and they'll get cited. But some of it is the students that live there.
Yeah.
They need to be more respectful of themselves, the community that they live in, their university. So we do have a big focus on the fort, and I personally know people that live there, and I attend events in the fort, and I deal with Redeeming Hope Ministries, who has an outreach for homeless and very poor people. They're right there in the fort, and I'm very well aware of their activities. So we do care about the fort and that whole area. Right, you can, we all partied in college, but you can be respectful.
Erica Estep, WATE 6 News reporter. I'd say the most recent story that I worked on was in October, in fact, October 16th of last year, and that was when former UT student Sawyer Webb was killed in his apartment in the Fort Sanders community. Now, we've done several. I did one in September the year before, too. There was a string of what we'd called a crime spree, but KPD disagreed. They didn't agree that it was a crime spree. But there was 3 or 4 muggings. There was a sexual assault, breaking and entering, all in the Fort Sanders community, all within about a month's time. It does depend on who you talk to. Occasionally, you'll talk with students that have been on UT's campus for a while, and they'll say, I feel safe here. Some will say I feel safe here during the day hours when I'm with my friends. After night, you have to worry about it a little bit more. But I can tell you, since I've been here since 2005, UT has done a lot of safety, made a lot of safety measures, a lot of improvements there to address the issue. One of them being putting up more lights and things, putting up more of the blue help phones where people can call, increasing transportation and stops around the area so students don't feel like they're having to wait too long. But the dangerous time is after hours, after dark. And that's when students say they do feel concerned for their safety. Particularly, I hear in the Fort Sanders community. I can tell you KPD tells me that students sometimes make themselves a target for crime, and that is why sometimes they will be targets. And what I mean by that is, talk about late hours of the night. College students walk around after hours. Some college students drink to excess after hours, which makes you more of a crime target. You're walking around after football games. You're walking back and forth to clubs after dark. You may have an iPad with you. You may have a computer, electronics, money, cash that you're carrying around. So that all makes you more of a target. And students sometimes leave their doors unlocked, their car doors in their apartments.